That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Nitram, the fifth film directed by Justin Kurzel, which premiered in competition at the 2021 Cannes Film Festival, where it landed Caleb Landry Jones a Best Actor award. IFC Films released it March 30th, 2022.
We're a little tardy to the party.
Well, we did a lot this week.
We did. What are Justin's other films? Do I know any?
No, you probably don't. He broke out in 2011 with his debut, Snowtown, about the Snowtown murders, which premiered at Cannes Critics Week. I think it swept the awards there, which this film is very similar to. He then went on to do a adaptation of Macbeth, which also competed at Cannes with Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. He did a video game adaptation in Hollywood that didn't go over very well called Assassin's Creed, although it does feature Charlotte Rampling. And his last film, which I think is one of his best, is The True History of the Kelly Gang, about Ned Kelly and, all that. Obviously not the first movie about Ned Kelly. That film I thought was really well done, and I think this one plays kind of like the inverse of that, where Ned Kelly almost has this kind of folk hero personification in the Australian mythos, and this person that Nitram is based on is kind of the anti-hero.
The basic story is there is a man named Martin, but everyone refers to him as Nitram, which is Martin spelled backwards. And it's not a kind nickname because he appears to have some emotional issues along with maybe some cognitive or developmental delays. His home life is a little difficult. He's an only child, and his parents don't seem to communicate well or get along well with him. The dad more so than the mom. But anyway, he is difficult to deal with. He ends up meeting a woman who lives nearby who is very rich, and her name is Helen. Mm-hmm. She takes a liking to him. She's also a bit
she's often that
off-center.
That Grey Gardens kind of way.
She takes a liking to him and immediately she buys him a car, she buys him a lot of things. One day there's an accident and Helen dies. And Helen leaves her home and $500,000. It's important to know this takes place in 1996. She leaves all this to Nitram. From that point on, sort of some background about his parents are, the dad has dreamt of purchasing a property to make it a bed and breakfast. And he's been approved for the loan, and the place he wants gets purchased from under him because there's a higher bidder. So that has really affected his emotional well-being.
Because they painted, at least in this film, as kind of his way out.
Right. Combined with having a son who he's having a difficult time managing. Now that Nitram has all of this money, he attempts to buy the bed and breakfast, but that does not go well, meaning he's not able to. And then shortly after, his father commits suicide. So now it's just his mom, and they don't even live together because he lives in the home Helen left him. One day, Nitram sees on the news that there is a mass shooting and
at a school.
And I guess that inspires him because he goes off and spends a lot of money buying multiple guns. Mm-hmm. We then see him go off one day and shoot the people who bought the property that would have been his dad's bed and breakfast. Then he goes to some public place.
Port Arthur, it's a tourist site. It used to be a federal prison.
In Tasmania. And he shoots and kills 35 people.
Injures 23.
The end.
Yeah, but it's notable, as the end subtitles tell us, that there was the National Firearms Agreement. It caused all this firearms reform in Australia in a matter of 12 days. However, there are more, as the film tells us, there are more guns in Australia now than there were.
So the reform didn't really last because, right. Okay, this was a hard film to watch.
Yeah, well,
watching this troubled individual and then sort of the heinous crime this character committed is just difficult.
Yeah, and that's why it feels very similar. I felt kind of ill watching Snowtown back in 2011, and this is the second time I've seen this, and Caleb Landry Jones does do a phenomenal job.
I would say this almost feels like a horror film because
Yeah.
he is just, I mean, I know it's like this is a troubled individual who, we can't just say is like evil because he has issues. But just watching this portrayal, it's unnerving.
It
There are many
is.
moments when the look on the gentleman playing this role, what's his name again?
Caleb Landry Jones, who you've seen in films like Get Out. He's also really good in Tyrell from Sebastian Silva, and Heaven Knows What is a must-see performance from him.
I feel like he deserves like award consideration.
Well, he did win Best Actor in Cannes.
Did you already say that?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
If you watch that Cannes ceremony, if you can find footage, that was the shit show where Spike Lee announced the Palme d'Or winner.
You were there.
I was there. And Caleb Landry Jones, that whole awards show was off, but he was ill or something, accepting his award, and he was all kinds of off.
But yes, he does a phenomenal job.
And he's from the U.S. He's from Texas. He's not even
Really?
Australian. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he does a phenomenal job. I was very uneasy. And really, this film, because it's very straightforward. Mm-hmm. Like, telling the story is very easy because it's very straightforward. I think it's very effective in generating conversation.
Yeah, like I don't think Kurzel is trying to obviously condone or make a case for this person. It's just very kind of blunt and matter of fact that, and it's set, the mass shooting happened in 1996, but really all these events are occurring in the early 90s when he's met Helen, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's just trying to show like how this could have happened leading up to the inspiration for it and how kind of some mass shooters are just really simply copycat killers that just got the idea because they saw somebody else did it. Phenomenal supporting cast, Judy Davis and Anthony LaPaglia as the parents. I think they're both really interesting. There's one scene in particular I want to talk with Judy Davis. And then Essie Davis, the mother from the Babadook, and she also had a great role in The True History of the Kelly Gang. I think she's really good as Helen, who's this like aging actress who's obsessed with the Mikado.
Why don't you go through your little notes?
So I saw this at Cannes, and then I went to Venice, and I saw The Lost Daughter there for the first time. And now rewatching Nitram, there's a scene where Judy Davis and Essie Davis are speaking, and Judy Davis is kind of upset that this woman has kind of commandeered her role as mother, and Judy Davis is a very cold mother, and she relates an incident from Nitram's youth where they used to play hide and seek at like some fabric store, and then one day he wasn't where he usually was, and she spent all this time trying to find him and was so distressed only to see that he was hiding in the car giggling. There's an exact same monologue like that in The Lost Daughter, and there are some flashbacks with the Jess Buckley characters. I find that very interesting. I also find it interesting in a fictional narrative like We Need to Talk About Kevin, which also has Tilda Swinton and Ezra Miller, having a very similar mother-son dynamic where they're kind of their cold personalities make them more alike than not, and this mass shooting going on in the foreground is disturbing. Mm-hmm. But just I think I think what's disturbing is how it's almost culturally accepted that maybe that's part of the formula, if you will. But
yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to talk about gun control and mass shootings. I think because that requires more than the time we have right now.
Well, and then of course the IFC, the distributor, has asked that we only refer to him as Nitram, that in respect for, and also Kurzel doesn't show the shooting. It's not like the Norway shooting, those two dual Norway shooting films from Eric Poppy and Peter Greenaway that actually show these mass shootings and killings happening. They make an obvious point not to do that. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know how you felt about. I guess I don't need to see. I don't need to see that. It does that. You know what happens. I think the score is really good. Kurzel's usual composer is his brother, Jed Kurzel. This was filmed by lensed by Germain McMicking, who has shot a couple other, I think, features for Kurzel. Notably did a film was the cinematographer in a film called Partisan with Vincent Cassel I really liked. Also Top of the Lake. It was written by Shaun Grant, who's also worked with Kurzel before. He also wrote the Berlin Syndrome. But it does play like a horror film, but it also is a character study.
Yeah.
I feel.
What would you give it?
I don't know. I guess I think I gave it 3.5.
I would
think it's fair.
give it 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's really well done. It's just not, pleasant.
Well, the subject matter lends itself to this feeling, so I don't think it's like revolutionary or...
No, not at all, but
The performance is, I think, like excellent from Caleb Landry Jones, but the actual story, I mean, is based on, somewhat on a true event, and
I think it does a good job of showing kind of when you have too much time on your hands, perhaps, and no outlets, and clearly this person, they make pains to show that he was maybe medicated, maybe overly medicated, but there's a physician that's saying, like, maybe he needs to talk to somebody, which clearly his mother was not able to do for him.
maybe we'll talk more about it on the podcast. Anything else?
No.
Okay, bye.